Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our Raw Reaction series. And for episode 170, resuming is probably a better word, the Arsenal transfer show. The end of the season is here. We are in a brand new stage of the show and certainly looking forward to covering all of the exciting transfer stuff that's going to be coming forward all the way up until the start of the Premier League season, and of course through until the close of the summer transfer window. We've got to do this now till August. So plenty of shows coming your way, plenty of tactical breakdowns on transfer targets. Also, will be coming into your subscription boxes, and I look forward to bringing you all that and more from the comfort of our show. Hope you guys are doing good and well. Make sure you drop a like on the video if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to the channel as well if you are indeed new around here, with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Let's say good morning to people joining us in the chat box today. Matt G, good morning to you. Jose, Ritian, Martin, Jonty, good morning, guys. Answer, Trevor, Sina, Viwe, good morning to you, mates. Rich, Damien, Nick, good morning, guys. Hope you're all doing well. Marcus, Anthony, AFC West, Mid, Simon, Kevin, Olu, Chips and Peas. Good stuff. Good morning, everybody. And thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. As per, always an absolute pleasure to make this part of your morning routines. Without further ado, let's kick on with today's show. And we start, as always, by telling you to go and subscribe to the Arsenal Way. Link in the description. I'll be live at 10 a.m. over there. I'll be continuing to give you more Arsenal coverage on our other channel as well. Link in the link tree, as I said, down below. But we start with our first story, that Arsenal's youngsters are set to be promoted to the first team for next season. Charlie Patino, Amari Hutchinson, and Miguel Aziz are all expected to make the step up during next season. Expected to get minutes most likely in the Europa League group stage, some of the early rounds of the Carabao Cup. Expect that to take place next year. There are links and rumours that possibly Amari Hutchinson will be leaving the club on loan, perhaps to Reading, but we are still waiting to get confirmation on whether or not he will indeed move on. I imagine that perhaps the pre-season tour will give Mikel Arteta more of an indication about what he would do with Amari Hutchinson. But Patino and Aziz looking to get that step up. Now, we are kind of expecting an announcement from Arsenal regarding Mohamed Elneny's brand new contract. He was pictured with a pen. It sounds crazy, but it's genuinely true. Was pictured with a pen inside the Emirates Stadium after the game against Everton. It looked as though that a new contract was possibly being signed and being prepared to be announced then. And so we're probably expecting a extension of some kind. We don't know on the length. I think it would probably be around a 1-year extension. It would make sense to keep him at the club another year and still to obviously improve and invest in the squad. But, he's given us some really strong performances of late. And I think having him as kind of, fourth or fifth choice cover in central midfield is never going to be necessarily a bad thing when you've got all of these games to play as well. So very, very sure that I look forward to seeing an extension for him. I think it's justifiable. I wouldn't go as far as Nketiah and Lacazette, though. Now, Lucas Torreira, we talked to you about this player a couple of days ago, specifically that Fiorentina had it seemingly turned down the opportunity to sign Torreira using the option that they had at the end of his loan spell. And instead, it looked like he could be coming back to Arsenal. Now, this story is in jeopardy as well because he's posted to his Instagram page yesterday this message with a picture of him holding up the Fiorentina shirt with a lot of shushing emojis, as if to say, don't listen to this crazy story. It looks like I'll be staying at Fiorentina next season. So let's just wait and see what happens with Lucas Torreira. May not be coming back, though, it seems indeed. Now, a new player on my radar is Mathías Olivera of Getafe. Now, Tuta Mercato have said that Arsenal are one of the teams that have joined the race for the left back. He's a player that I don't really know all that much about. He's got, 3 goals, 1 assist, I think it is, or 1 goal, 3 assists, one of the way arounds this season. But yeah, not a player I know all that much about. £17 million is the supposed figure that it would take to bring the 24-year-old to the club. He's a Uruguayan international and played 32 games last season, a very strong regular for Getafe, and has got 3 caps so far for the Uruguayan national side. I don't know whether or not this is a player that should be joining, but should you be aware of him being linked to Arsenal more, you can be sure that we'll be doing plenty of analysis, that's the word I wanted, and breakdowns on Mathías Olivera throughout the summer transfer window. But we will wait to see if this is one of those just random rumours or if there is indeed any kind of substance to this link. But we do know that Aaron Hickey is a player that Arsenal have been linked to even more so than Olivera and can also play right back. Olivera has not played right back this season. I don't know if he's played there in the past, but Hickey seems to be the more versatile of the two. Moving forwards to our next story, and Tammy Abraham's possible move to Arsenal does not look all that likely. It is said that because of the situation between Roma and Chelsea and the difficulty of needing to negotiate with both teams, it makes him a very, very difficult player to try and secure from the club. Chelsea, as we know, have that £80 million buyback clause in the contract, and that Arsenal would kind of need to supersede both of those clauses with Chelsea and agreeing to allow him to leave Roma at the same time. Very, very difficult deal to do, and that is supposedly putting Arsenal off trying to sign the England international. Now, moving to a striker that could still be moving to Arsenal this summer, Gabriel Jesus. It is said that he will leave Manchester City during the summer transfer window. That has been pretty much confirmed at this point. He himself has come out and said that, he's going to be getting in touch with his representatives and talking about his possible future, and that the supposed lack of Champions League football is not necessarily something that would put off Gabriel Jesus. So the Brazilian could still indeed move to Arsenal, and it's very, very likely that I think this is one that I think we can get done. I'm going to give this a solid kind of 8 out of 10 in terms of likelihood. I think this is a real strong one that we could get done. Of course, things change, and it might not happen, but I have all of the feeling and confidence that this is the one that Arsenal will certainly be pushing for. The only thing that will stop it really is if Arsenal turn it down because of the price tag that Manchester City set. We aren't 100% sure on what that price tag is. There have been rumours of 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 60 million. There's been ridiculous levels, ridiculous levels of price variation with this deal. We don't know ultimately what we're going to be seeing with Gabriel Jesus and what we're going to be seeing with a price tag for him. Let's wait and see. That's all we can say on this one, is that we're going to have to wait and try and figure out how much in the end he will end up going for. But Arsenal, very much interested in him. And our headline story in terms of transfers today is Youri Tielemans. Arsenal and Arteta are pushing for a £25 million deal, it is said, to bring in the Belgian international to Arsenal. He is said to still be open to a move, despite the fact that Arsenal don't have that Champions League football associated with them for next season. That doesn't necessarily seem to be a problem, despite the fact that Arsenal missed out on the top 4, which is good for Arsenal. And £25 million is a very, very good price for a player of Tielemans' quality. I know that there are doubts. I know there are concerns about him, and that's completely fair. But a player of his quality coming from a fellow Premier League team for 25 million at that age, of that profile, of that level, I think is a very, very savvy piece of business for Arsenal if they can indeed complete it. Expect this one to be kind of done, if it is, I'd imagine, in the earlier parts of the window. I don't think Leicester will want this to be dragged out. Who knows? If there are more teams coming in for him, perhaps that will change. But for now, it does look like it would be one of those earlier deals in the window to get done. Let's wait and see what indeed does happen. And lastly, it is said that Arteta and Edu will have around £150 million to play with, and they'll be looking to try and make 60 million odd quid off of their player sales department. Let's see if that is what happens. But we did talk about on the show a number of times that we felt that the summer spending of this summer would be similar to that of last summer, but spent in a very, very different kind of way. I want to see at least 7. I've said that I think 7 needs to be what we need to be looking to bring in if we want to progress us forwards to our goals. We need to be looking at a goalkeeper, which we've already sorted. We need to be looking at a versatile fullback, which we've hopefully going to be getting done in the form of Aaron Hickey. I think we need 2 central midfielders, including 1 more experienced figure. I think we need 2 strikers, including at least 1 really genuinely world-class, top-class forward. And we need to bring in 1 wide forward as well. There's even an argument that maybe an experienced central midfielder is on the radar, and we should be looking to do something like that. We'll have to wait and see. But he is certainly someone in terms of Arteta, that will be looking to, in my view, improve the squad significantly so. And that completes all of today's stories for, of course, our first Arsenal transfer show of the 2022 summer window. But we don't finish the shows there. We, of course, go into the chat box and take your questions. So if you indeed do have any questions you'd like to throw into the chat box, please do after this short break. Okay, then let's jump into the chat and see what is going on here. Kevin says 60 million. Who are we selling? Do you have an idea of the estimate values of the players that we could be looking at? Well, I mean, if you think about the players that are in the squad, if we have a quick look through, of course, we're going to be doing one of our tier lists very, very soon, looking at the squad of who we would keep, who we would sell, who we would loan. We are going to be doing plenty of that. So Bernd Leno, of course, I think you're going to get about £10 million max there. So that's I hate doing these types of things, but I'm just speculating. Leno, 10 million quids. Rob Holding possibly could move on in the summer if you're going to, at least in my view, about £10 million for him. Looking into the midfield, Granit Xhaka, maybe, we don't know yet. Lacazette is going for free. Nicolas Pepe should be looking to get at least £20 million for him. So we've already gone up there with those three players to 40 odd million pounds. Bellerin, I think we should be looking to try and get about 10 million minimum. I mean, 10 million euros is said to be what Arsenal want for him. So let's call that around £6-7 million. So you're up to 50 something. Guendouzi, Torreira, Mavropanos. Should those three move on, that's gaining Arsenal about £20 million as well. So all of a sudden, you're getting up to that figure. You've then still got to talk about Pablo Mari, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Reece Nelson, Alex Runarsson, and maybe even William Saliba have still all got to be spoken about. So 20 million pounds is an easy figure, I think, for Pepe. And then you'd be looking elsewhere for possible other figures too. I think 60 million is very achievable with the players that we've got in the current squad. Let's go to Chalongu, who says, how many free agents do you think fit our profile? And do you think Edu and Arteta are looking at such players? We've done this a few times on the channel. If we go to Transfermarkt, look at the possible contract expiring of players. I mean, Frank Kessié is already going off to Barcelona. Paulo Dybala would be something I would be very, very interested in trying to look into if that's possible. But I think he'll probably end up at somewhere like Inter or Atletico Madrid, somewhere like that, maybe even PSG. In terms of other possible options, has Tolisso yet signed a new contract? Tolisso, I think, could be a very decent central midfield option on a free, if we couldn't say get Ilkay Gundogan. He's only got a year left on his deal and could be available for a very reasonable figure in the summer transfer window. Alessio Romagnoli as a centre-back, possibly, would have been a good option. Scrolling down a little bit more. I tell you what, Christian Eriksen on a free transfer as a possible competition for Martin Ødegaard, I would not have turned that down. I would genuinely not have turned down the idea of signing Christian Eriksen on a free. I don't think that's a bad suggestion at all. I don't think he would come to Arsenal because of the Spurs link, of course, but I would never have. I'd never ever turn down the opportunity to sign a player of that kind of quality on a free deal either. Doom and Gooner says, do you see Raul Jimenez as a good alternative shout as a striker? Kind of the 1B option, the 1A being the genuine world-class quality. I don't think so, based upon what Wolves would ask for that level of striker. I don't think he would be worth what they would ultimately ask for. Neil says, if Ødegaard is having a poor game, who will you bring into the middle of the team? Smith Rowe's form is poor. Do you consider any new signing? I think we should be looking arguably to bring someone in that could play a creative kind of central midfield role, hence why I just mentioned Eriksen there. Amir says, Tom, people keep mentioning that Mikel can't compete with the other big managers in the league. Can't wait for him to prove them wrong. That's not a question. It's not a question, Amir. That's a statement. Drew says, Saliba can do a similar role to Tommy, don't you think? Yes, I think he is versatile enough that he could play possibly as a unorthodox right back and has played at right back for Marseille on a number of occasions, but his future definitely lies more so as a centre-back. Peter says, do you believe anyone can pay £20 million for Pepe? Yes, I absolutely do. James says, are you going to be rating the fake ITKs this year? I'm already bored of the egg timers and the winking emojis on Twitter. Predictably, it's also the same names who got nothing right last season. We might do. I always enjoy the little ITKs. The hashtag ITK Rater will maybe be making a return to the channel. We did do that a lot last summer, and I think it helped out a lot of people to realize how much rubbish gets circulated across the airwaves. Let's wait and see what the summer holds in store for us on the socials. A says, do you think Arsenal should be shrewd in this market, considering the amount of players left on a year contract? And the freeze, in the theory, it would enable us to spend on world-class and elite players. Yes, I do. I think that's why you should go for people like Ilkay Gundogan as a possibility. Kalidou Koulibaly, both have a year left on their deals. Why not go and try and get some very good pieces of business done for players like that? Kind of cool, says putting or maybe considering how Partey was deployed by Arteta. Do you think Tielemans is a convenient option? Partey was put into that lone 6 role. So Tielemans playing in that left central midfield position, I think, would work really, really well. So basically, Tielemans would work in operation instead of Granit Xhaka in games. And yeah, I do think that can work, definitely. Kevin says, you said Holding and Saliba. Would you expect Arsenal to sell both and spend on a new central defender, along with the fact that we need to bring in a new right back and left back to push Tommy and Kieran Tierney? I think if we bring in a versatile fullback, we don't necessarily need to bring in 2 and overspend on those positions. I think if you bring in a fullback like a Hickey, like a Molina that can play in both sides, I think that ultimately is something that we could look at saving money in. But I don't think we'll let go of Holding and Saliba. I think it would be one or the other. I think if Saliba comes in, Holding may have a future elsewhere, but he's very attached to Arsenal. So I don't think necessarily we would see him move on for sure. Ayath says, any links to a DM we imploded when Partey got injured or wasn't involved before Elneny came in? Clearly need a better alternative. Out and out number 6s? No, we aren't seeing many links to an out and out number 6 at all. Oh, we've got a little spammer in the chat box. Imagine spending your life doing that. Charlie says, do we know exactly why we didn't buy Bruno? Were we even really in for him? Yes, we were. It's just that Newcastle were a lot more efficient and faster with the way in which they went for him. Arsenal were trying to do a deal for Vlahovic for most of the January window, whilst Newcastle were laying the groundwork for the Bruno Guimaraes deal. And the point at which we realised it was too late, it was too late, and we couldn't get the deal done. Mistake made. Absolutely, we should have been better on that one. Stevie says, Tom, would you convert Tavares into more of an attacking player? No, I personally wouldn't. There's a reason why he was converted by his Benfica coaches to that fullback position. It's because of certain restrictions in the final third and certain pluses that he could develop in the defensive third. So no, I wouldn't. I think that he's a young player, still got more to come from him, but I do think that we should still be looking to bring in someone for competition and as a better kind of option for us in that role. Vishal says, would you take Luiz from Villa since they've now got Camara? Really good deal for them, by the way, bringing in Camara on a free from Marseille. Douglas Luiz is a very, very decent option as a central midfield target. Is he really the big upgrade on Granit Xhaka that we're looking for? I'm not sure he is right now. Has he got the potential to be in the future? Maybe. But it would be a very difficult deal for Arsenal to do. They are trying to get him signed up to a new contract, and should they fail, maybe a easier deal for him would be available. Langa says, Tom, Saliba and Gabby will be homegrown players next season. What does that mean for us in terms of registration and transfers? It doesn't mean loads because neither of them counted towards our non-homegrown quota before. It's basically... it's never considered a homegrown quota. So you never have to worry about what the homegrown quota of the team is. You need to worry about how many non-homegrown players are in the squad. And if we ever take a look at the squad, and I'll think about the players that are going to be moving on, I won't be including players like Leno. I won't be including players like, let's say, Lacazette. So if we go through the team, non-homegrown players, we've got Tierney, Gabriel, Cedric, Tomiyasu, Tavares, we've got Partey, we've got Ødegaard, we've got Lokonga, Elneny, could be here, probably will be, Xhaka, that's 10. I expect Pepe to move on, so not him. Who else is going to be coming back? Pablo Mari, that's 11. Basically, we've got a very, very strong group of homegrown players and not all that many non-homegrown. So there is a lot of scope for Arsenal to bring in 5 non-homegrown players minimum in the summer if we wanted to. It's not a position that we need to worry about in the squad right now about non-homegrown players at all. Robotic Man says, any update on Marquinhos? It seemed like it was done, but I haven't heard anything. He was at London Colney last week. It's done. It's done, mate. So it's just a case of waiting for the announcement. They may wait until the window officially opens. We'll have to wait and see. But it is done at this point. Dirk says, how high do you think Lokonga's potential is? Very. I think that there's a lot more to come from him. He played, 33%, I think, of games this season, and he came in his first season at 21 years of age into an Arsenal central midfield. There's a lot more to come from him in the years to come, especially with Europa League football we've got next season. Abe says, when's the first tactical breakdown coming? This week. This week it is back. I'm looking forward to it. Dirk says, how high? Oh, we've already done that one. Let's go to... Spooch says, lol, these players are not coming to Arsenal without Champions League football. It's ironic because they probably will. And we're hearing reports that certainly that Champions League football doesn't necessarily seem to be stopping Arsenal with plenty of their primary targets, actually. So I don't expect that to be a problem whatsoever. Inga says, do you think we should play 3 at the back in most of the games if Saliba comes back? No, I think we should continue with the 4-3-3. And Saliba will rotate with White and Gabriel. The robots will eat you, says the fall from grace Torreira has endured is shambolic. Lynn says, how are Chelsea still able to buy players when they have been sanctioned? They haven't bought anyone yet. They still need to wait for this situation to go through with their takeover, but they will be able to buy players in the summer as soon as that is sorted out. Amira says the club has said they see Sambi as part of Partey's replacement, but do you think he's more of a Xhaka replacement because he thinks of being a left-sided 8 instead? Personally, I see him more of an 8 than a 6. I think Lokonga said himself that he prefers to play, was it number 6, I think, when he joins, but can play as an 8 as well. He did really well on that left-hand side in games against like Villa in the first half of the season. So he can play there and can play it well. Maybe it's something that we need to see more development of in the future. But Partey's lack of presence there has certainly hampered Lokonga. And Xhaka, of course, being there too. Manu says, who are we bringing in to guide our youngsters? We need a title winner who can motivate them like an Ibra did for Milan. Who would you pick? For me, it would be Gundogan and a top striker. Yeah, look, I think bringing in the 2 Manchester City targets, Gundogan and Gabriel Jesus, I think could be great. Have those kind of characters around the squad. I think you could arguably bring in a Kalidou Koulibaly as well from Napoli at centre-back. I think they'd be great options for Arsenal to bring in the summer transfer window. Kind of Cool says, where do you stand on Ezzy's issues? Should we give him a new contract? Whether or not we give him a new contract is irrelevant to me as long as we bring in 2 strikers. If you said to me that if signing Eddie to a new deal meant that we couldn't sign 2 strikers, then I'd say no, thank you. If you said to me that it's irrelevant, it won't matter in terms of the strikers, and I don't mind him necessarily signing a new contract. There's no skin off my back if he renews and we've still added 2 quality forwards to the team. I would probably have some judgment upon him for not making that move when he would need to, but that's about it. If Eddie staying means we can only sign 1 forward, I'm not for it. If it doesn't matter, then I don't mind it. It's as simple as that. There's 770 of you in the chat box. Thank you so much for joining, and so many of you for our first Arsenal transfer show of summer 2022. We'll be doing these at 8 a.m. every single day, nearly as much as feasibly possible. So do make sure when you join us that you vote on our poll and you drop a like on the video. Let's have a quick check on that poll whilst you're here. Asking the question, will Arsenal have a successful transfer window? 72% of you have said yes. 28% of you have said no. Interesting. A lot of confidence. I like it. Ade says, morning, Tom. If you could sell certain Arsenal players, who would they be and who would you replace them with? It's a big question, Ade. I think when we look at the team, the players I'd move on are Leno, Pepe. If you can get an upgrade on Xhaka, then I would be open to that type of movement. Other than that, Marie, Maitland-Niles, Ganduza's already going, Nelson, Runarsson, Bellerin, these types of players. Bringing players in. I've gone through a number of players before. Goalkeeper Matt Turner, I'm fine with. Aaron Hickey, Koulibaly at centre-back, I think is a really good option for us, an experienced option at that. In midfield, Gundogan and Tielemans. If it is those 2, I think they're really good additions to the squad this summer. Strikers, I'd go for Gabriel Jesus and Schick. And in terms of a wide forward, probably would lean towards Cody Gakpo of all of those. So there you go. That's probably my perfect summer in a very short answer. Abhinav says, don't understand so much fuss about Saliba. If he doesn't want to play for Arteta, we should part ways and find a better player. We are the Arsenal. Look, absolutely, no player is bigger than the club, but we should be putting effort to try and keep our biggest potential talents at the club for next season. Raf says, with the way we capitulated towards the end of the season, do you think our primary focus should be on bringing in experience? I think Zaha might help us more than a Gakpo, if that makes sense. Depends how much Crystal Palace would ask for Zaha, Raf. I see the theory, I really do, and I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't dismiss it at all. I think there are other positions in the team like central midfield and centre-back where maybe experience is better suited for those types of moments. But I also think that the capitulation wasn't necessarily towards experience, but more so because of the injuries that we faced to really key players in crucial positions. I mean, fullbacks, losing both starting fullbacks for so much of the second half of the season, I think is the biggest damager to why we didn't finish in the top four. Did we lose interest in Fabian Ruiz, or was the interest never that great, says MJ10? It's very similar to what you see of a number of players linked with the club. They usually peak, the stories peak, and then they trough and they stagnate at a certain level. It doesn't mean that interest has gone. It just means that a different player has now been discovered in the media and that's being talked about. Usually see these players kind of rise and fall throughout a window. Think about Tomiyasu. Arsenal were linked with Tomiyasu really early part of the last window, quite low level. And then it came back at the end of the transfer window when that deal was something that Arsenal wanted to pursue a lot more. So I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing in any way, shape or form. Charlie says, does Balogun go out on loan next season? That depends on Eddie Nketiah. If Nketiah does stay, then yes, I would send Balogun out on loan next season. If Nketiah doesn't stay, then no, I would keep Balogun at the club and start using him from the bench because we've got these 5 substitutes next season. I think we've got plenty to use him for. Is Koulibaly the new Szoboszlai? You've mentioned him 3 times now. No, it just comes up in the conversation that we're talking about. He's not on the level of Szoboszlai in terms of my admiration for a player just yet. Patrick Schick, though, certainly is becoming one of those players. Paul Guy says, will Arsenal make our main signings before pre-season starts for once, or are we going to be delaying and panicking like we always do? We don't always do it, Paul. There are certainly times where we have signed players later on. There are certainly times when we haven't. I think you remember the summer we signed Giroud and Podolski and Santi Cazorla. We had all of them sorted and done. You know, that was a summer where we got our business done really, really early. But this time around, we need to make sure that we get them done before the pre-season starts and get them integrated into the team as soon as feasibly possible. We know what's happening. We know there's no European Championships. There's no block for us. There's no excuse to get your business done. Let's not fail the transfer window, because a failed transfer window to me is not bringing in players before the start of the season. Not necessarily always before the start of the pre-season period, because, you know, you need certain dominoes to fall sometimes. But certainly before the start of the season, I want to see our main primary signings sorted before the season starts. Rich says, Tom, should we try and keep Torreira? He would be great alongside a Partey, Tielemans or Gundogan if we get them. Look, if it's a choice between keeping Elneny or keeping Torreira, I would lean towards Torreira. I think that there's more potential to come from him, but he only has a year left on his deal and you would have to negotiate a new contract, which would be very difficult. But I think he will eventually return to Fiorentina. Let's go to Manu, who says, could we do a TGT end of season rewards or awards? We could look back at the season and give awards like most improved, most consistent. Don't you worry, Manu. There is plenty coming in terms of a look back at the season and player awards and player accolades and stuff like that. We will be doing plenty of them. Martin says, Tom, please tell Vishal that we've already signed a goalkeeper. Yes, Vishal, we have already signed a goalkeeper. We've brought in Matt Turner. He will be bringing in for around 5 odd million quid. So he'll be joining in the summer. So don't worry. Goalkeeper is already done, already sorted. But deadline day would be boring, says Chris. I want a boring deadline day, Chris. Even as a content creator, I want a boring deadline day. Do you know why? Because it should mean that we are already finished. We're done. Our business is complete. We don't need to worry about deadline day because it's finished and over. I want a boring deadline day. Believe me. Believe me. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We're going to wrap things up there. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, as it always is. I'll be joining you, hopefully, for a tactical breakdown very, very soon. And Amira, the Canston Simeon show, will be returning this week. I'm sure Harry has been on holiday, but he is now back. So I look forward to having a catch-up with him as soon as possible, either on here or there. I'm not sure when the next one is or where it will be, but we'll certainly let you know as soon as we do indeed No. Thank you for joining me. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And make sure you make this part of your morning routine every single day, 8 a.m. UK time. If you're on the way to work, on the way to school, on the way to wherever you happen to be going, or maybe even you're just chilling, or you're getting back for a really late night out if you live in the West, or if you're enjoying your midday lunch or dinner in the East. Thank you for joining me. Please make sure you do it every single day throughout the transfer window and help support the channel and join this brilliant community in following all of the Arsenal transfer news. I'll see you soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.